Doug from Team Insanity coming at you with probably the most anticipated review, Planet Eclipse Etha. So let's open up the box and get started. With purchase, you do get this hard plastic green box. It's pretty nice. It's a little bit big, but open it up and everything is laid out very nicely in the foam. So what you do get with the purchase, you do get the marker itself. We'll go into that in a second. You get a two-piece shaft 4 barrel, reverse threaded. It is, I think, a 14.6 inch barrel. The bore is a 0.693, so it is a pretty high bore. So you're overboring your paint. Also, you get a very generous spare parts bag. So extra O-ring, springs, everything else you need to repair your gun. So that's definitely great to have. You do get Planet Eclipse marker grease, which is important because we'll use that later. You get the Allen key set, and this is really nice. These are ball Allen keys, so you can kind of turn them at an angle. So a lot nicer than some of the other Allen keys you get with other markers. So you have a full set here. Take apart, maintenance your gun. Great thing about Planet Eclipse is you get a wonderful manual. So this is a full color manual. Oops, find some color. And it goes through everything that you need to know, from just tuning your gun, programming the board, changing the settings, to full disassembly and maintenance. And even troubleshooting. So you have a table in here. If you're having problems, you can come into the back of the manual and try and diagnose the gun. If not, send an email to Planet Eclipse. The guys are very helpful. So also, the way this gun works, it has a spring poppet inside. So this is the internals, and we'll take a closer look at that a little bit later in this video. But because of some issues they're having with the spring, they actually switched to a springless poppet. And so in the purchase, you do get the replacement part. So the spring poppet was inside the gun, and you have to replace it with this. You don't have to, it still works, but there was some wear with the spring. So switch this in and you won't have any problem. So that did come with the purchase of my gun, and I actually got another one just through service of Planet Eclipse. So I'm going to set this aside and take a look at the marker and some of the features of the marker. Put the barrel on here for you. Maybe. Now overall, it's a very light gun. It's about 2 pounds, I think 2.05 pounds. Very similar to, say, a Geo style, but with completely different internals. You do have the on-off ASA, which is a simple screw-on here. It is composite, so you have the handguard of the whole gun is composite. You have a composite feed neck and composite eye covers, but you have the aluminum body. You do have a clamping feed neck, also another very nice feature. And the trigger is actually pretty nice. Has a good feel. It is a spring return trigger. So on the grips, they're more of a hard plastic with kind of these rubber, these spots that stick up are actually a little bit rubberized on both sides. So that's more or less it. For the bolt assembly, you can tighten it and untighten it by hand. I actually use an Allen key and just give it a little bit more, so I need an Allen key to pull it apart. So I think the next step will be a disassembly and kind of a quick maintenance to show you how it looks. Okay, so let's take apart the gun and check out the internals. So go ahead, just unscrewing the back cap here. I can actually pull out the entire bolt assembly. So everything comes out together. So I'm actually going to set this aside and we'll focus on the bolt assembly for this part of the maintenance. So taking off, you have your spring, you have your bolt, you have your bolt guide, which just unscrews here. Now here you have your poppet assembly. I'm going to actually need to use a wrench to get this part, and you'll see there are some flat grooves on this threaded section, and just using a wrench you can unscrew that. This comes apart here, and then your poppet assembly can come out like so. And here, as I mentioned before, here's the springless poppet. So this is kind of your seal to help the firing mechanism. So for maintenance, very simple. Just wipe off all the old grease and put new grease on. Just take a microfiber, and I'm going to go through and wipe off all these components, get them nice and clean. There's a dog all up on my junk right now. And again, now you don't actually have any grease on the bolts, but you do get some residue from the grease that's moving around inside the gun. So now that everything's cleaned, with the exception, I'll do this too. We can now grease everything back up and then put the assembly back together. So I prefer to use the Planet Eclipse grease that came with the gun, just because that's what they recommend. It works well. And note that you are actually using grease on these O-rings and not oil. Very simply, I just put a little bit on my finger and go around the O-rings like so. And because this takes some time, we can probably speed up the video. Okay, now that we've got those pieces greased up, go ahead and put the assembly back together. So knowing how it goes, remember that this will go inside of here, and this sticks out, so put it back together. First slide, pop the assembly in, and then this back in, and get past the O-rings there, and we'll just screw it in. And again, I'll use my wrench on those grooves just to tighten it in. Okay. Next, put the bolt guide, screw this on, and you actually don't put any grease on the bolt or the bolt guide. That doesn't need it. You do have, forgot to mention, this rubber O-ring here is kind of a bumper for the bolt. So I'll put this on and the spring, and then it's ready to go back inside the gun. So I'll bring the gun back and simply just slide it in and screw it on. A few more turns. And with this gun you can get away with just doing hand tight. Makes it easier to disassemble in the field. But very easy to maintain. I recommend greasing, cleaning up your gun after every time you play. Just helps make sure that the gun will last longer. And the next step, we're actually going to do the Sl3 Regulator, which is standard on a lot of the Planet Eclipse line. So to do that, we need to take off the macro line. And this, in order to do this, there's a little ring here. You want to hold this in, and you can pull out the hose. Just like that. If you pull on the hose without holding that ring, it's kind of going to cinch in and hold it in. Now this is very easy. You just unscrew the whole body here, and that comes off. Once again, I'll set the gun to the side and take this apart so we can look at the inside. So if you screw off the body here, you have two pieces inside, which is going to be the spring and the, say, plunger, with one O-ring here that we will need to clean and grease. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that off now. My microfiber, set that to the side. Now in here, you need to use your Allen key to actually screw the velocity adjuster all the way in so that it will come out the other side. So take the Allen key and just spin it in like so, and you can see that the assembly will come out the other side here, and you have some O-rings on here. Now you can actually take these two pieces apart. For most of my general maintenance, I don't actually worry about that. There is an O-ring or a seal inside of here and another O-ring inside up here, but for the most part they're fine for general maintenance, and maybe once a month I'll go through and clean those. To get those apart, let me just show you how to do that. Use the same Allen key you use to adjust the velocity, and take a smaller one through the rings here, and you can actually break those apart and unthread them. So I'll show you. There is the seal inside of there, and there's also an O-ring in here. So I'll put those back together. Like I said, I'm not going to grease them up this time. They're fine. So make sure it's tight. And now we get to grease these O-rings. Luckily there's just a couple, unlike the bolt assembly where there's a few more. Oops. So just go through here, again just a dab of grease on your finger, just roll over the O-ring, make sure it's coated nice and well. Once you start flowing air and things are moving, the O-rings will kind of grease themselves, and the grease will go where it needs to go. So that's it, and time to put it back together. So let's drop this in here with the Allen key part facing down, and taking your Allen key, actually put it in here and screw your velocity back out. So you want to pull the counterclockwise, so you pull the assembly back out. Now for this, because I'm going to assemble the gun again, I kind of have a feeling for where this needs to be for your velocity. I make sure not to pull it all the way out. That way, if you're airing up your gun after you just disassemble, you don't blow your solenoid. So I kind of go with indented just a little bit. So something like that. You still have a little bit of it indented in there. Now for this part, again, the spring on the plunger. It helps if it goes in the right way. So you have the spring. This screws back on here. Very simple. Plunger. And we'll now put it back on the gun. Move the macro line out of the way. This always helps if kind of back thread a little bit, get it lined up. It's taking a lot longer than usual. There we go. So once that's screwed in, we can just kind of push the macro line back in. So once it's lined up, it'll go right back in. So now some of the other things on here, you do have the eye covers. So if we take these off, show you underneath there. If you get paint in this, you can pull these off to clean inside. To clean these, I like to use a Q-tip. So just taking a Q-tip, running along here, kind of cleaning up some of the oil and residue that's developed. So here you have your ball detent, this little rubber piece here, and your eye. You also want to make sure you clean the back of the eye cover too. So just kind of push down the eye cover, make sure it's sitting in the right spot. Put the eye cover back on, and we'll screw it in. And it's that simple. Now you can take the gun apart further than what I did. If you have any problems with the solenoid, you can undo these screws here and pull the top portion of the gun off. For this video it's not necessary. If you have problems with your Etha and you want to give us a message, we can help you out further with that. One other thing I did want to show you is under the grips. So the gun does use a 9-volt battery. What's nice about these grips is there's only one screw. They actually use a clip and a little hole here to hold the top of the grip in. The grip is sunken into the frame a little bit, so it helps avoid getting paint under the grip. And it runs off a 9-volt. You do have a button here. This really small black button is a tournament lock, so you can actually lock the gun for tournament play if needed. The other advantage, or positive thing here, is they give you an LED color code. So if you're programming your gun and you don't remember what the colors mean, you can open up the grip and take a look, and it'll help you out. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and show you how to program the different modes here that you can use. Now, the Etha does have a really bright LED. You definitely can see it on the field in the bright sunlight. That's a plus and a minus. Something like, say, my dam, I can't see the LEDs very well at all. So this I know if it's on or if what mode I'm changing to. And you can see right now I turn the gun on, it's flashing yellow, which means it's not detecting a ball, so the eyes are on. So I'll put my finger in the breech here, and you see it switch to blue, which just tells you that, okay, there is a ball in the chamber or something in the chamber, and it's ready to fire. You can hold this here and it will go to purple. This means that the eyes are off. So now you can fire the gun and you hear the solenoid going. So you can actually fire the gun without the eyes on. So I just want to switch it back to being off here. Now to program, you kind of hold the trigger and hit the on button. You'll see it flash white and then go to a solid color. If we go back to the grip here, you have red. So right now we're selecting the firing mode. You can also change the max rate of fire for the capped modes. Blue would be the max rate of fire with the eyes off. Purple is the dwell, and light blue is the debounce settings. The only ones that I really play with right now are the firing mode and, say, the max rate of fire. To check what mode you're in, you just hit the trigger once, it'll flash how many times. You can see it flashed once, so we're in semi-auto. If you hold, maybe not. Yeah, so we're gonna have to
redo that,
okay.
that part out.
So you can see it's in red. Let me put it back to. Okay, so right now the color's red, letting us know that we're in firing mode. From here, to switch between the different modes, you just hit the power button. You can switch to green, which is going to be your max rate of fire. Blue is your max rate of fire with the eyes off. Yeah, purple for dwell, and light blue for debounce. The one I'm going to talk about today is going to be the firing mode. So you do have 4 firing modes with this gun. Right now, if I hit the trigger, it's going to tell me that one flash, we're in semi-auto, uncapped for this gun. And just so you know that capped, or the rate of fire for this gun is right around 15 balls per second is the max capped you can do. So again, one trigger pull, it's going to flash once. To change the setting, you're actually going to hold the trigger down and the light goes off. Now to change this setting, hit the trigger, so I'll do 3 times. It's going to go green. Again, we can check by tapping the trigger, and you see 3 flashes that lets you know that you changed it to the third option, which in this case is PSP ramping. So the 4 modes for the gun, so you have 1 flash is semi, I believe uncapped, 2 flashes is semi-capped, 3 is PSP ramping, and 4 is Millennium ramping, which is the European circuit. So now that we have that, I'll turn the light off. I'll turn the gun off, hopefully, and I'll put this back on, and we'll go into, say, some final comments. So earlier today we actually did an efficiency test with the marker at the field. We ended up doing more of a 1-ball type of efficiency. If you're doing ramping or PSP, you might not get as many pods as we did, but with the weather, it's a little bit colder out, a little bit harder to shoot fast and semi-auto. So take a look at the efficiency video and how many pods we got with it.
Alright, so here's the paint to bore ratio. This is the paint that we're going to be using. So it is a bit overboard by a lot, so that will mess up the efficiency a little bit. And you can see the tank. The tank is at 4,000 psi. It just got filled. Alright. Alright, so now we're going to chrono it. 274, 280, 266, do one more time. 277, so it is bouncing around a little bit, but we'll go with that. Sorry, it is a little bit dark outside. It's the end of the day, but here we go. Alright, so we got out of the Planet Eclipse Etha 1, 2, 3, 4. That is 5. Just show you 6, 7, 8, 9, and about a quarter pod ish, give or take. That's about a quarter of a pod right there. Thanks for watching.
So as you can see from the efficiency test, it actually wasn't too bad. There are more efficient guns out on the market, but it did okay. If you're playing at a field, you can usually fill up on air in between games anyways. So just for some final comments, shooting the gun, it's actually really it's not too bad. One issue I have with it is the vibration and the sound. So you do get pinging sound as you shoot the marker, and there's a lot of vibration just in the gun in general. So it's something compared to, say, the Axe, which is what I normally shoot, and it's a lot smoother gun. But overall, it does shoot really well. You can shoot pretty quick with the gun, and I'd say it's a great beginner gun. Like I said in my unboxing or my gear bag video, that it's my backup gun, and primarily because it's reliable. So I mean, with the composite frame, very durable gun, easy to maintain. As long as you take care of the marker, it's going to perform every time for you. So I haven't had any problems with it other than just kind of the vibration, which is how it shoots. So if you're fine with that, or it's your first gun, it's not a problem. Where I think this gun really excels is if you're like me and you're more into like the tactical woods ball type of play. You can actually buy the EMC rail kit made by Planet Eclipse for the Etha. So real quick, I'll show you what you get inside of here. If I open this up, you get 2 half shells which clamp around the gun. You get eye covers. You do have to use different eye covers. All the screws, and you get end cap, and you get 2 end caps. I only have the one here. The other one's on my stock. So if you want to run with a stock, you have an end cap for with a stock. And if you want to run without a stock, you can actually just put a cap on. So to give you an idea of what this looks like, just real quick, essentially just clamps over the gun like so. So it does take some time to put together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my entire EMC loadout on and show you the gun from there. Alright, so here it is. This is my loadout with the EMC kit. So I've added a couple things. So the tan is the EMC kit. You have the clamped around with the rails and the eye covers. On the back here, I've added a collapsible stock. Now what's a nice feature about this is if you need to get in to look at the bolts, you can just flip this little lever and the whole stock will come out, and you can actually get in and pull the bolt assembly out. If you didn't want to run with the stock, you actually had a tank on the gun, you can actually put the cap in and it's just flat on the back of here. But I like the looks with the stock, so I'm going to put that back in. I do have a Magpul angled foregrip on the front and my Contour Picatinny mount, so I can mount my Contour camera in the right way, like so. So this is my tactical loadout, and what really sold me on the Etha was the fact that I could get this kit along with it. And we do play in the woods at Lone Wolf Field in Michigan, and so just having a tactical gun is kind of a lot of fun. So I usually run a remote line to a tank on the back. It's a good gun. You can switch between tournament play without the EMC kit or woods ball play with the EMC kit. So overall, I think it's a great beginner's gun. You get for about $400 without the EMC kit. Gets you able to keep up with the speedball players that are shooting a little bit faster on the field, but it's still a very durable gun. So if you're looking for a gun, consider the Etha, but don't forget about the other guns in that range and kind of think about what exactly you want to do with it. So if you like the EMC kit, I'd go with Etha.